Okay, my butterflies, we are back again, and I am so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for tuning in and keeping up with us. And I am so happy that, we are now being streamed in 17 countries. Where did that happen? I'm like, what's happening? But I'm so glad that you guys are here. And I, have an oldie but a goodie. And I'm so excited for the guest that I have today. I have Melissa Reynolds. She's an old friend of mine and going to be a new friend of yours. So let's just get into it. Melissa, tell everybody who you are. And I know why you're so awesome. Because you were just a powerhouse. You have the family, you have your business, you have your health, you have all the things that that you could use as an excuse, but you don't. um so just tell everybody who you are, and let's get going.
Okay, hi. Thanks for having me. So I am Melissa. I am the founder of Melissa versus Fibromyalgia blog with over 300 posts about my experience with chronic pain and fatigue. I have written 4 books and I have 4 children. So that's a bit funny. Not going to be stopping anytime soon. Have several more ideas in the works. And I'm just passionate about making sure that people learn what they need to learn to be able to advocate for their health.
Mm, absolutely, absolutely. So in with the 4 books, there is Fibromyalgia Won't Win. There's the planner, and the name escapes me because it's right here. Um, the Pain Journal, and what are the other two?
Pregnancy and fibromyalgia. And my first book was Melissa versus Fibromyalgia. And then now I didn't even include my planners as my book. So I have 4 books and
Oh,
multiple planners.
exactly. Oh, okay. Well, awesome. So let's tell people about just a little bit for the people who are the first time hearing you and they may not know about fibromyalgia won't win. Just tell them a little bit about your pain journey and how that fibromyalgia won't win came about, and why it's so important for people who have pain and who don't, why it's so important to get the information out about fibromyalgia and chronic pain in general.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, my journey started when I was like 14 years old. So it's been a long time in the works. And
Mhm.
so for a long time, I was left undertreated. And it
Mhm.
wasn't until I was 28 years old where I kind of took control of the journey and started actively learning and experimenting and fighting for myself. I've had to fight really hard. And it's only in the last few years that I've made some really big steps forward. Um, because I don't think it's hard to explain, but I don't think we have enough information and education about. And I think
Mhm.
that we don't realize the complexity of these conditions. So
Mhm.
there's been a very simplistic understanding of fibromyalgia until now, and I'm learning that that's just absolutely not the case. So I
Mhm.
wrote Fibromyalgia Won't Win last year, kind of sharing everything in detail that I had done to get as well as possible. And I was really happy at the place I was at last year. I was doing really well. But then all of a sudden, things went to custard. After my fourth baby, when my periods returned, they were brutal. And after a year of declining functionality, we realized that it was actually endometriosis. And so
Mhm.
for many years, I realized that my health, doctors were kind of seeing it like this big giant ball and they were calling it fibromyalgia, but it wasn't really just fibromyalgia. So the endometriosis was there. There was migraine for a while, but I seem to have got on top of that. I have interstitial cystitis and chronic fatigue syndrome, and I'm being explored for potential hypermobility now. So
Mhm.
you can work as hard as you like trying to manage fibromyalgia, but if you've got other
Mhm.
health conditions happening, you cannot improve the fibromyalgia.
Mhm.
So my mission is just to share everything I learn, and I know that what I learn is not going to be directly transferable to anyone because it's how you treat interstitial cystitis or bladder issues is going to be so different to whatever comorbid condition someone else has. And
Mhm.
unless you treat those comorbid conditions, you're not going to be able to calm the nervous system. And so I'm just committed to sharing everything I learn in case it can help other people on their journey because it has been so hard for me. And I'm a well educated, well researched person who's worked my butt off. And I know that there are people who do not have the time or the energy or the ability to go through and read the research or try the things.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and you're right. And much like any other condition, no two people are going to be exactly alike. However, unlike any other condition, there's information about those other conditions that is readily available. However, when it comes to chronic pain, and I do air quotes because it's always like, oh, you're just a little sore, or you just need, to improve your diet. So it's like chronic pain, fibromyalgia. It's it's like a trash can diagnosis. They really don't seem to have any urgency to really put any effort into actually figuring out what it is, how it starts, and how it can apply to each individual person. Um, and you're right. It's like it is usually once someone is lucky enough to actually get down to the nitty gritty, they end up having several small bits of a different, totally diagnosable condition. But it takes someone caring to do the work to figure that out,
Mm.
and that's what's lacking. At least, I mean, I'm sure you're finding it on your side, and it's on my side as well. Finding a practitioner that is willing to take the time to do their job. So,
Yeah,
unfortunately, that burden falls on us. So, I'm with you. I am with you. Um, so yeah, so I mean, fibromyalgia won't win. I absolutely love that book. Um, so once you received the diagnosis of endometriosis, I mean, did you already know that? Like before they confirmed it, did you kind of already have an idea that this is probably what it was?
I was always just told that my heavy, painful periods were just part of the fibromyalgia. And when
Mm,
my periods came back after my fourth baby, I went to a new doctor and she brought up the term endometriosis, and I'd never heard it before. And it got worse and
okay.
worse and worse before anything happened. And our public system here is very overwhelmed. So even after a year of increasing, like I had very little functionality. I could not do a single thing for 2 days of my period. And I nearly went to a
Wow.
hospital a few times. And when I went to see a
Mm,
private specialist, I told him my story, and he said, "This is 100% endometriosis."
wow.
He said, "There is no normal, like, it's normal if you can take ibuprofen and get on with your day. If
Mhm.
it's like this and interfering with your functionality, it is not normal and not okay." And so, but
Mhm.
you don't actually get a diagnosis of endometriosis until they have done surgery. So they
Mhm.
call it laparoscopy. So usually it's just to have a look and see it's there. But he had a look and
Mhm.
took it all out. But we also did a hysterectomy because, well, I wanted to be sure that we hit everything possible. I didn't want to come out of it with the endometriosis gone, but still having heavy, painful periods. Um,
Mhm. Yep.
But the problem is that when you live with that kind of pain for that long, and when you have something like endometriosis growing in there, things happen and you end up with pelvic pain and it's chronic. And so who knows whether the interstitial cystitis was caused by the endometriosis. Um, but I certainly have leftover issues in the area, even though the periods are gone and the endometriosis is gone, because it was like 20 years.
Wow. Yeah. 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 I mean, so I just wonder, like, if just like nerve damage and just the fact that just trauma, like internal trauma from it just being for
Yeah.
so long. So, have they? So now that they've done the surgery, they've done that portion. Have they given you a plan now? Like, are they? So you said they're considering or looking into hypermobility. So is that like the treatment plan moving forward?
Well, it's all very separate, so I have to keep advocating. So the endometriosis specialist is done,
Ah.
and so that should be um, we're we're really hopeful that it's not going to come back. So now I
Mm,
keep managing the interstitial cystitis with the GP. But what happened was since the surgery, my low back has been really, really bad, and it has been since pregnancy when we I had sacroiliac joint dysfunction, and it would go out of
mm,
place. And so I went to the doctor and told her about it, and she said, "We need to send you to the rheumatologist and get an x ray." And she put me on celecoxib, a very strong NSAID. And so I was taking this medicine, and the x ray was
mhm,
taking so long to get a referral for it that I found out that chiropractors do an x ray as part of the intake process. So I went to the chiropractor, and there is no damage visible in the x ray, but my sacroiliac joint was out of place. So she put it back in
mm,
place, and that made a world of difference. So
mm,
I'm still on the wait list to see the rheumatologist, and we don't actually know if the rheumatologist will have any specialty or understanding of hypermobility. But the fact that my sacroiliac joint keeps going out and
yeah.
examination, the chiropractor said she feels like I do have hypermobility. So whether it's just on the hypermobility spectrum or whether it's hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, it's going to be touch and go whether or not the rheumatologist I am referred to knows anything about it.
Mhm.
And it's always a scary thing to get referred into the system because the pain clinic system here was very disappointing,
Mm,
and very dismissive and very upsetting. And if you have just fibromyalgia,
mm,
like if that's literally all you have, they'll be great for you, right? But the problem is if you've got other issues, you can't stretch, meditate, sleep, whatever it away. You have to deal with it. So, like, can you imagine me trying to meditate away my sacroiliac joint that was out of place? But
yeah.
that's like the message you get.
Exactly. It's like, there's not enough yoga nidra in the world for like a displaced joint. Yes. It's like fixing a
Yeah,
broken arm
yeah.
with
So,
just laying down. Yeah.
yeah. And
That,
I mean, that's
yeah.
what
I
the
mean,
chiropractor
and
said. Just those messages being fired at your nervous system, right? Like the sacroiliac joint is out of place. We're out of place. We're in danger. Or hyper, you're being overextended messages. So it's like your nervous system is being yelled at by these very real structural things happening. And then everyone's just looking at the end result, which is those messages and the nervous system being on fire. And I think that's a bit of what it is. Fibromyalgia is like the end game, and you're looking at the
mhm,
wrong thing.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, and I mean, it's like, it's almost as if it is too simple, but yet they're making it very difficult. And in in the end, we're the ones having to pay for it. I
Yeah,
mean, I definitely get it. I mean, I get it. It's not much better over on this side over on this side of the pond either. And things are frustrating. Trying to get referrals, trying to find the compassionate care, just things that you would think would be, standard, just aren't. Um,
Mm.
so is it just is it just the fact that because you're living this life, is that like the sole motivation for you writing the books and for you continually pushing to help others, because you very well could be stacking up all this information and solely using it for yourself. You would have every right to like be doing all this information and be completely focusing on helping you, because your body, your family are going through it. you know?
Mm.
So what is it that makes you want to actually share the information?
I don't want anyone to lose as much of their life as I did. My entire 20s
Mm,
was subsumed by pain and fatigue and sleeplessness and no help. I didn't do all of those regular things you do when you're a teenager and when you're in your 20s. So now, at 38 years old, I'm only just starting to pick up hobbies and to find things that I like to do and have the ability to do them.
mhm,
And if they had picked up these issues years ago, it wouldn't have gotten so bad. And so I don't want that for other people.
mhm,
So I share anything I learn because I want other people to get that knowledge sooner. And because I know that they may not necessarily even get it because, you know, I'm I do a lot of research and I ask a lot of questions. And not everybody has the ability to do that. When you're exhausted and you're in so much pain, it is hard to gather the information and think it through and then figure out what to do with it. Like for a long time, I had some information. Like I had the
exactly.
Fibro Manual by Dr. Lipton, and I had From Fatigue to Fantastic by Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum. But there were so many things in there I couldn't even enact because the doctor wouldn't listen. So, even if
Mhm,
you get the information, who knows if you can enact it. But if even one person
mhm.
reduces how long they spend in really high levels of pain, then I have succeeded.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. Because I definitely get that. I know just recently I was with another advocate, and they were asking about like favorite songs, like when you were in college, like the things like, what did you listen to, like when you would go out. And I went to college, yeah. But I was again in pain, not really realizing why I was in pain. But I really just focused on going to class and trying to make it back to my dorm. That was really all I
Mm,
was thinking about. Um, and when she asked that question, drew a blank, because I'm like, I don't know. Like, because I didn't
mm,
have the time to do fun things, because it just wasn't part of my day, because I was too busy trying to not embarrass myself, because I was still forming my brain and just barely out of my teens, and just trying to get through a day, newly in college, and just trying to live that life. So again, me in my 40s, and I'm just like, I should know this answer. This should be a quick answer, but that's like you said, you lose so much of yourself. And it is like I definitely agree, like you want to be that source of information that we didn't have when we were diagnosed. I mean, I know my doctor told me, he was like, well, you won't die from it. So, I'm like, what kind of response is that? Like, okay, thanks, sir. I think, you know, um, so we, and it's so funny, because it's like I kind of already know a lot of these answers. So I'm trying to like go back and pretend I don't know these answers, but how how has your family been affected by your chronic pain?
So much. Like, it's so insidious, right? Like, I have to spend so much time, energy, and money on being as well as possible that the stress is on them. But also, it's like missed opportunities, things we can't do together, things I can't do. Um, the fact that I can't work full time, the fact that we just had to spend a lot of money on my operations, like that all puts it onto the family a lot. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, it's a big burden for a family, and it's never just one person. If one person's sick, the whole family has
Mhm.
something, right? Like you
It's
can't
the whole
be,
family sick. And like
yeah,
and how much guilt does that bring up for you? Just like when like I know when you mentioned the operation, you kind of had like a little bit of a tone shift. So like I mean, because you know what I'm gonna say. You know what I'm gonna say like it's not not to feel guilty, but I also know I am one that feels very guilty about almost everything I do. But so I'm like I'm saying it to myself as well. But
yeah.
it does, you know?
There's a tremendous amount of guilt. It was worse when I was less well. I was really not well when my first two were small. And so there was a lot more to feel guilty about. But now I'm actually better at standing up for myself and to myself because I know two things. One, I did not cause this. And the other one is that I am doing everything I can to counteract it. Like,
Mhm.
I could not be
Mhm.
accused of not trying hard enough. So I'm getting better
Right.
and getting better at also looking around and recognizing that I actually do achieve a lot
Mhm.
anyway. So even though I want to do more and wish I could do more, I'm probably on par or in advance of other normal people. um,
Exactly.
so I've got to remember that.
Exactly. I mean, and you are. I mean, you're a rock star, at least in my book, 100%. So let's talk about this newest book. Um, what brought this book on?
Well, I was thinking about the fact that my children are getting older now and they ask me questions, and I've always answered them. But I noticed before my operation, my oldest son was getting a little bit anxious and starting to notice things and starting to ask questions. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to be able to explain this in a way that might make sense to him? And so I started playing with what I would say. And so I just sat down and started typing, and it turns out I had a whole book already. Like, I had everything I wanted to say. But when I read it to my 9 and nearly 7 year old, I had to cut a lot out. There was a little bit too much detail at one
Okay.
time. But also, it was really cool because they helped me to change the language as well. And so
Mhm.
they did give me feedback about it. But the main message in the book and the main message I give to my kids is there's kind of two things. One is no matter what I'm going through, and no matter even if I'm having a bad day, I still love them.
Mm.
But the broader message is a little bit of understanding and a little bit of adaptation can go a long way. And that's my big thing at the moment is I can do anything if the people around me will help me to adapt.
Wow.
If you like, I always say to my family, as long as you make sure I can do my yoga nidra in the day, I can do almost anything you want. And I'm becoming less apologetic about it.
Mhm.
And I
Right.
want to shout it from the rooftops.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of different messages in the book, but
Mhm.
the ability for people to be able to share their experience with the kids, to explain some things to the kids, and to know that they're not alone, is kind of the driving factor, why I would write a children's book about fibromyalgia. Um, but what I didn't realize is how much it would impact me getting to share my experience with them. So when I heard my son read it out loud for the first time, I got really emotional because
Mm.
there's something to hearing your experience said out loud. Whether he fully understands it yet, I find that that understanding is the really important thing. That's often what people
Mhm.
say as well when I get comments and messages and emails from my work. A lot of it is, thank God I'm not alone. Thank God I'm not the only one. I'm so glad to hear your experience.
Mhm.
It's that understanding. And so if having a children's book and explaining a little bit of what we experience, and of course it's the tip of the iceberg, but sharing a little bit of the experience creates some awareness, um, and makes people feel a little less alone and misunderstood, then that will make me very happy.
100%. 100%. So, so how exact? So, like you said, so your oldest son helped you, helped you kind of brainstorm, or actually they all did. But so, like, what was their reaction when they saw it? Like finished.
Yeah, they were really excited. So when it came, they were a little bit late getting home that day, and we were all waiting to get dinner on the table, but they couldn't wait. They had to sit down and read it with me. So we sat down on the couch, and my big two were fighting about taking turns who got to read which page. So they were really excited about it and really happy to see it. But it's a bit funny because they just take it in their stride that I write books. But actually, a
That's
few months
cool.
ago, they realized that these books that sit on the bookshelf are actual books that I wrote. And so I put some pictures on Instagram a while ago because they were so like excited that these books were actually written by me, and I was sitting there looking at them one night, and it was so like just excited and just had noticed that some of the books sitting on the shelf
That's
were written
crazy.
actually by me.
Like mom's a writer. Mom did
Yeah,
that. So, what would you say the age range is for this book?
I would say 3 to 12. I
Okay.
mean, any little kid will enjoy reading a picture book, but getting like actually
Mhm.
understanding the content is probably more. I mean, my boys are, I have 9.5, and then the next one down is about to turn 7, and it's kind of
Okay.
perfect for them in terms of reading it and understanding it.
Okay.
Um, but I think the cool thing is that you'll come back to it again and again, and then different things will stand out, and there'll be different lessons to take, different avenues for questions, which
Mhm.
I think is cool.
So, clearly this would be something that will be good for a family with someone with chronic illness, but how how are you planning to market this? Who do you think would make the ideal customer for this book?
I think first and foremost, it'll be people with a person with fibromyalgia in their family, or even just
Okay.
in their friend group. They'll feel, I think,
Mhm.
that they'll be more likely to immediately pick it up. But I do think it's also helpful for anyone because we do need to build awareness about this. There are
Mhm.
millions of people experiencing fibromyalgia and chronic pain.
Mhm.
Um, so there is a broader reach there, but of course, I talk to people who have, fibromyalgia and chronic pain. So my initial thought is
Mhm.
that it'll be a wonderful tool for parents with, with children, and they can read it to their children. Um,
Okay.
so yeah,
Okay. And when is it going to come out?
it's out now.
It's out now?
It's
Okay.
just been approved. Yep, just been approved. So
Okay.
there's a soft
Sweet.
cover. There's a soft cover on Amazon. but
Okay.
because of finicky rules about how many pages it has to have and what size it is, I'm doing my hardcover through Lulu. So as soon as I
Through
receive
who?
my hardcover copy and approve it, it'll be on
Mhm.
Lulu. But
Oh,
I have a
Lulu.
page on
Okay.
my website which explains about the book and it has the link
Mhm.
to the places where people might want to purchase it.
Okay. Sweet.
And I have a
Okay.
free handout that goes
Okay.
with it.
Free handout. Okay, and the handout can be found on your website, or is it come with the book?
It's on the page on the website, and it's also a note in the back of the book, and so people can download it. And it's got resources for mama or the person who might have fibromyalgia, but it's also got the I give a battery analogy for explaining how fibromyalgia kind of works. And so I talk about how the battery doesn't
Mhm.
really fill up overnight and how it can drain by pain. And so I put that onto a page. And then I've got a couple of worksheets because in the book we talk about a couple of things. One, we talk about the fact that they can ask their mama any question or their person any question they like. So I've got a worksheet for them to write down any questions they have. And also a
Mhm.
list of how they can help. So how they can be helpful members of the family to support their person. Uh, and of course, a huge list of resources for the person with fibromyalgia.
Awesome. Whew. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, so tell everyone one last time how they can get in touch with you, how they can, get your book, any of your books, and anything else that you think that they need to know on how they can interact with you and whatnot.
Okay. I think primarily Melissa versus fibromyalgia.com is the best place to go. There's a drop down menu of all my books, so you can click on the page for the books, and I have over 300 blog posts there. And I'm also on YouTube, Melissa versus Fibromyalgia, so people can come and check out my videos there. And I'm also on Instagram, Melissa Ian Reynolds. But yeah, my books are on Amazon, so if you search Melissa Reynolds, you'll come up with my books. You'll also come up with a strange book that is not written by me, that's a little bit awkward, but you can ignore it.
Okay, got you. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your book with us again. And until next time, butterflies, I'll see ya.